The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Good afternoon and welcome to Chit Chatting with Jocelyn. I am Jocelyn, your host, and today you can see I have a very special guest. This is Victor. Are you Victor? You my good boy? This is my new friend. I've met him a couple of times, but this afternoon, you can smile for the camera? Yeah. I met him this afternoon. He did an interview with his dad at the radio station, and I found out a lot about service dogs, why my guest, General Don Bolduc, has Victor, what the importance of having a service dog is, what we should know. So diving right in, I've got my friend here, and he can stay right here. He likes having his little hiney rubbed here.
Yes, he does.
Welcome to the show, General Bolduc.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me, and I want to say hello to all your listeners.
Thank you so much. So tell us something about this wonderful boy here, Victor.
All right. Well, the first thing I'll tell you is that he is Guardian Angels Medical Service Dog of the Year.
And what does that mean?
He was voted. That means of all their service dogs that they have out there, which is, close to, 1,000, what he has done over the last year in, taking care of me and his involvement in the community and in the public, and hundreds of events that he's gone to.
Yeah.
He has stayed true to his training as a federally trained medical service dog. He not only helps me, but he helps many other people. Brings a smile to people's faces. It's the rare person that you meet that isn't moved by Victor's presence, and I have him because I've qualified medically for him, and more importantly, I think, is that I have Victor because I'm very involved in buying down the stigma and for post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury for our veterans and anybody else out there that's suffering from that thinks that having a medical service dog is a drawback because it's a visible sign that something's wrong with you, right? When I believe it's a visible sign of strength, right? You're strong, not weak when you ask for help, right? And that's a message we need to get across. So we buy down suicides, and we, people, these medical service dogs do a variety of things. Not only are they there for people's mental health, but they're there for physical injury. They're there for blindness. And he was trained for 18 months. I didn't even meet him. I didn't know him, and that's part of the program. And he was born. He was set aside for recipient Bolduc, and put in his training. And he does 6 months of training, socialization training. If he passes that, then he goes on to the training for the recipient specifically, and that took another 12 months. So a total of 18 months. I didn't see him until he was 18 months old, and I went down and paired with him. And the interesting thing about pairing is that the dog picks you, you don't pick the dog. So all that training could be for naught because the dog just doesn't feel that you're a good fit.
Doesn't have the connection.
Right.
Wow.
And it's the dog that makes the connection. So you do 2 weeks of pairing, and it's interesting. You go down, you get your briefings in the morning, and you sign the contract because he really doesn't belong to me. He belongs to Guardian Angels.
Okay.
And I have to take care of him in the way that the contract stipulates, or they can take him away from me. Every 6 months, I get a call from a trainer, and every 12 months, a trainer comes out and physically checks on him, make sure that he's still responding to the commands, and and if I ever had an issue, of course they come up and they handle that issue, but that's never happened. So, anyways, he, and then in the afternoon they sit you down, and they go away because they don't want the dog to be distracted. They tell you his name, and he comes out, and you can imagine, he comes out, and I see this beautiful black German Shepherd dog, and I'm like, oh my God, look at him. And I'm going, Victor, Victor, and he makes his way over to me, and we start interacting, and within 5 minutes, he dropped down and exposed his belly, and then that's the sign they were waiting for him to do.
Yep.
Because that's his sign.
Correct.
Other dogs are different, right? But they, the trainers know. And from there, I learned everything about him: how to give him his commands, how to feed him, how to take him, in public areas, shopping, on planes, on trains, on automobiles. You do the whole thing, right?
Goodness.
And you just get better and better. And it takes about 6 to 8 months before you really get into this click. He knows the tone of my voice. He knows my mannerisms. He can sense my heart rate. He can sense all kinds of things that we're not really aware of. And so he just keeps an eye on that. And, he's there for me. He focuses on me. And he's also been trained, because I said, hey, I'm going to be teaching college, and I'm going to be doing a lot of things that put me out there in audiences with people, so he needed to be comfortable with that. And you can see that he's very comfortable in this environment and with other people.
Yep.
Other service dogs aren't given that training, and so you can really see that in them, where they're very attached to their recipient, and they won't go near anybody else, right? In his case, I got a big black dog. I don't want people to be afraid of him. I don't want,
Correct.
they didn't want him to intimidate him. He's going to be intimidating enough,
Right.
being a big black dog. But once you look at Victor, and once he makes eye contact with you, and you see the kindness in his eyes,
Yep. There's nothing.
people melt.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
He's truly a gentle soul.
He is.
And the multiple times that I saw him around with you and all the different events, you'll walk someplace and he'll go be with you, but then on other times he'll come stand next to your wife or
he gauges
anybody.
the audience
Yes.
and figures out where he needs to be. And I have to have the ability to be able to walk around, with him off leash. The federal law stipulates that a federally trained service dog can be off leash as long as the voice command of the recipient can still control the dog, right?
Okay.
And that is an exception that's made for service dogs, because there's a lot of situations where I have to use my hands, I'm occupied, and
Can't be holding the leash.
can't be holding the leash. We put the leash around our neck.
I've seen you do that,
Yep.
yes.
And so he, he just knows. He knows inherently when he needs to do what he needs to do. And, that's what really makes him very, very special.
Very exceptional. He's truly exceptional. Earlier this morning, he, I know enough not to just, reach and grab and treat it like your dog, treat him like your dog, that there's a space, there's a respect, and you allow the service dog to come to you. That I do know. And so when he'd come near me, I just would pat him. I didn't go crazy. I didn't, do what I would do with my dog or anybody else's that I knew. And I just kind of let him do what he wanted. And at one point, I think there was that loud bang outside, and immediately he was up. He went to the window. He was checking things out. He was totally attentive to figuring out, where was that?
Yep.
Do I, what's my next step? You could see this little process in his head.
He's going through his checklist.
He was going through his checklist, and then he just was like here, and I didn't disturb him because I was like, well, just because he's close, I don't get to go, distract him. So, and then he came back around, and I literally have my hands like this, and he put his nose under my hand, and then went and sat down.
Right.
And he checked, he went from there and he went and checked you out, and then he went and laid down.
Right.
So, even with me in the room, his checklist was, make sure everything's okay.
Yep.
Everybody's okay. And then he laid down, and
Right.
it's really wonderful. And then I saw him again this afternoon, and again, let him come to me, and so we have a thing. He leans on me.
I was at, a house party during the last election, and there was probably about 35 people there, and the grandchildren of the couple that was hosting the house party, one of their grandchildren has autism, and he is remarkable with children on the autistic spectrum.
Oh,
And the house party was outside and inside. You went inside to get the food, and you came outside to eat the food and listen to me talk. That's the price you have to pay. And he, inside, sitting down with her grandchild that has autism, with his chin right on the leg as the young boy is playing a game on his little game system. And I've seen him do that a number of times. Once was in Connecticut when I was doing a fundraiser for these dogs, because they cost $25,000 to train.
wow. I'd imagine it's
We don't
18
pay
months,
that.
you said.
Yeah,
Wow.
we don't pay that. We raise that money, and I'm involved in fundraisers to do that, to give back. And another autistic girl there, but she was an artist, and she drew a picture of him. And I have that picture at home in a frame.
Sweet.
That's been done twice with him, and the lady comes out and she goes, "Don, you got to come in and see this. It's the most precious thing you've ever seen." And I walk in, and there he is. Of all the people there,
He found that
he
child.
knew
Yeah.
who needed help. I was talking at an event in Massachusetts at the Essex County Attorney General's Law Enforcement Conference, and Victor came with me, and because he's with me all the time, and there was about 85 people in the room, and he was wandering around the room, and all of a sudden I heard him go, mm-hmm. And I said, "Is everything okay?" And the lady said, "Yeah, he's right back here with me. Everything's fine." And he stayed with her during my entire talk. My wife was there with me during my entire talk. And when she moved up to the front afterwards to, say hello to me, he followed her up there. She sat down, and he got right up on her lap. And we got to a point where it was my wife and this woman and myself and Victor, and Sharon goes, "I don't want to pry, but is there something, going on, with you, maybe?" And she said, "Yes, I was diagnosed yesterday with cancer." And he knew.
And he knew.
He knew. And he comforted her, right? She was in tears. She goes, "I just can't, I can't believe the compassion
That's
that he has." Isn't that
amazing.
And he's done that a number of times with folks. If you're in a wheelchair, he will pay particular attention to you. He will
Really?
go right up to a person in a wheelchair. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Oh yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
So he does a lot for people.
He does do a lot.
And he takes a lot of flack, though, because there are unkind people out there that don't understand, and that's unfortunate. We struggled with that, right? Because it is a visible sign, right? And people draw conclusions that you're unfit to do something because you have a service dog. And I want to tell everybody that that's so far from the truth, and you're so misinformed, and you got to be better than that.
So I think we talked about this morning that there are visible injuries. There's injuries on the inside, and society seems to only, how do I want to put this? I don't want to offend anybody, but they only seem to acknowledge if you have an outward injury, that you're in a wheelchair, or you're missing a leg, or you're missing an arm, or you're disfigured, everything's okay if they can place you on that list. But in honesty, I look at you, and I don't see anything wrong, according to this checklist.
Right.
People look at me, we talked about this, well, there's nothing wrong with you. It's not up to you and me to have to prove. I don't want to say what's wrong with us, but what our need is. Yet, society and courts and all the things associated with things that go on judge us, and they judge us very harshly,
Right.
extremely harshly, to the point I've heard you remark, is they just say really nasty things, and judge you to be incompetent. I've had the same thing happen. And I shared with you that, I was a 911 responder for a number of years, and I was assaulted on the job.
Yep.
My fellow workers, EMS, police officers, not all, it was amusing. It was amusing. The blame was squarely put on me. It was my fault.
Right.
Where does that stuff come from? Later on, your face looks fine. I don't see anything wrong with you. You're fine. Get over it. Suck it up.
Right. Right.
I am over it to the best of my ability. I have sucked it up. And what I do in my personal life is none of your business, and you're not in my shoes. To the point where people, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just, you're a liar.
Faking
You're
it.
a faker. Yeah, you know the
I was
words.
accused of that.
You know the words.
He was called a gimmick to get votes. And
Seriously.
oh yeah,
Oh, that's a new one for me.
gimmick to get votes. I don't really need a service dog. And then the third one was, well, if he has a service dog, then he's clearly not not competent to be a public servant.
Oh, don't get me started, because I could give you a list of 20 people right off the bat that are not fit to serve.
Yes,
so we're not going to go down that road,
my
because
wife
it's
said
not that
the
kind of
same
show.
thing. My wife said the same thing.
So it's very sad, because I mean, people that have epileptic seizures,
Right.
that's not visible till you have a seizure, but they have service dogs.
He keyed on someone that was moments away from having an epileptic fit.
Really?
Yeah, and he keyed right on him.
That's awesome. They also, I know there's
And
service,
he's not trained for that because that's not
because that's not
right.
the recipient's need.
But he knows.
But he knows. So where do these dogs come from? Is it just an arbitrary?
Heaven.
Well, I know, because dog is God spelled backwards, isn't it? Right. Yes. So truly. But I mean, is it just a litter, or do they have certain breeds and certain places that they come from? I mean, I can't imagine you can just take any dog and do this.
No, and not every dog makes it through the training.
Right.
They don't make it through the socialization training, or they make it through the socialization training, and then they can't make it through the recipient training that they need. And so there is a failure rate there, right?
Okay.
And there are certain breeds, I think, that have a certain affinity to being a service dog. You see labs, and you see German shepherds, and you see Belgian Malinois, and to name a couple, and guardian angels, they breed their own dogs.
Okay. That's
For
where I was going.
generations, they've been breeding dogs. In 2010, they went into the service dog business. And
Meaning military?
Military, for veterans,
Okay.
right? And they've been voted, Medical Service Dog Organization of the Year nationally on a number of occasions. So they breed them, and the dogs go through the training, and if they make it, they make it. If they don't, they become someone's great pet, right? Or there's something else that they do. But that's where these dogs come from. Now they get other breeds donated to them, and if they'll train other breeds, but they specifically breed the German Shepherd. And,
Okay.
He's all black, he's rare, and,
I think our friend Daniel has black
yeah.
German Shepherds, because I've never seen a black German Shepherd. I saw Daniel's, and now I've seen Victor.
They're rare, one out
Yeah.
of 1,500
Nice.
births,
Yeah.
you get a black one, all black one. His brothers and sisters have, brown paws and all black body or a combination, it's, but yeah, that's where the guardian angels dogs come from. And, they're bred there right on the farm in Williston, Florida. They're trained there. You go down there to pair with them. And it's an organization. We have our insurance through them. Because that's the other part of these dogs is they're, they have to eat a certain type of food. You have to have insurance for them. You have to, follow a specific checkup program for them. And so if you're going to have a dog like this, the other half of it, something that's often ignored, is the affordability.
Yes. Because of the proper upkeep,
afterwards. Right.
the proper taking care of this
Exactly.
dog that has been donated to you.
Exactly. And if you're going to get a service dog, you have to be able to do that. And unfortunately, some veterans
Unable
aren't
to afford
capable
that.
of doing that because they can't afford it. So there should be some programs, as far as I'm concerned, out there, and maybe some VA programs that once they get a service dog, that if they're a disabled veteran, they should be able to get the VA to pay for the upkeep of the dog. That's a great program.
That's a great program.
It would
I
be a
love that.
great program.
So
as much
when
money
you
as
get
the VA wastes, this would be a good thing for them.
So I'm thinking day one when you're elected, I think that would be on your list.
Well,
I mean, I know there's
reform
a
of the
lot
VA
of.
is high on my list.
Yes, I kind of figured that.
Yeah.
Because it's essential
It is.
to people that you have this
And
companion.
we got to tighten up the loopholes on
Well, I
the
think it's-
difference between a federally trained service dog and a comfort animal.
Mm-hmm.
And these loopholes need to be tightened up because people see me with this dog and I'm getting on an airplane and they roll their eyes because they think I'm just trying to get my dog from point A to point B.
Mm-hmm.
Because the system is so abused.
Correct.
You even find that with, flight attendants or people that check you in. And in his little pouches there, he keeps all his paperwork. I just whip it out and say, hey, this is a real deal. I have registered him with the airlines. He's got a little ID card in there that registers him with the airlines. But you still run into problems, right?
Because, and
we need to
again,
fix
because
that.
of the few that abuse it, the few that refuse to acknowledge differences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's not a pet.
No.
And, when I go home and I, give him the commands and I take off the vest and I tell him that he's a free dog, he knows that, hey, he can go around the house and look for the cat and, I play ball with him and he
can be
has
normal.
downtime and he can be normal. As soon as that vest goes on, he's all business.
Yep.
I mean, he knows the difference between the two, right?
It's sort of like on duty, off duty.
Right. And, we have to balance that. And I got to give him breaks,
Oh, absolutely.
And so on and so forth. Otherwise, he gets exhausted, right? So
Because he's always on.
always on.
So when the vest is on him, he's on. It's
Right.
he's on duty.
On duty.
Completely. And until
Completely.
that vest comes off and you give him the command, then he can be normal and he can be
Right.
unattached to you.
Right. Chases the ball around, runs around the house, plays with Bara, all that stuff.
All the good stuff
right,
doggies should
interacts
do.
with my grandchildren,
Yeah.
and he
How
does
nice
all that.
that-
I
so-
put on the vest,
Change.
change.
Well, it's kind of like put on the uniform if you're in the
Right.
military.
Exactly.
You put on the uniform,
Yeah.
you put on the police uniform,
Yep. That's right.
put on your EMS uniform.
That's right.
We're a whole nother person.
That's right.
You kind of, we
And
won't-
get back to your other point. I've talked to a lot of police departments and fire departments and such about post-traumatic stress, about how leaders should be handling the situation, about getting the care that we need for our first responders in these areas. And more police departments are bringing in comfort animals into the police department. And these dogs, wander around. So when you walk through that door, you may have just had a terrible encounter, a terrible situation, but you walk in and this dog comes up to you, wagging its tail, and it automatically is a relief for you.
Absolutely.
An outlet for you.
Well, it seems to me, and being the wife of a police officer, mother of a Marine, my son works.
And thank you, by the way,
and
not
you're
only
welcome.
for your service.
Well, I also was
Yeah.
911 EMS,
Yeah.
so. But more importantly, I'm a Marine mom.
That's right. There you
I'm
go.
a Marine mom, and you don't mess with me. Someone said, "Are you serious?" And I'm like, "Do you know what it takes to raise a Marine?"
That's
Because
right.
half the work's done before those drill sergeants get you.
That's right. That's right.
I looked at one sergeant at one time when my son had signed up and went up to Concord, and they had to sort of get together in the fake drill sergeant. So the guy that enlisted my son went, "Okay, so we decided you're the one that's going face to face with the drill sergeant." And my son went, "No, pick somebody else." So we had this, and so I knew it was kind of fun, but there we were.
Yeah.
And he was, just showing the guys this is what we do and the moms and stuff. Oh boy, I pushed his buttons and it was fun.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're down to 59 seconds. Tell us one more time about guardian dogs, guardian angel dogs, and then what we're going to do is take a break. We'll come back, and we're going to talk about some more important things.
Sounds good.
So tell us how people can contribute to this wonderful fund.
Well, you can go to Guardian Angels Medical Service Dogs.com and you can look at their website. There's a place there to make various levels of donations. Please consider doing that. There's also a way, if you know a loved one, veteran that needs a medical service dog, there's an easy step-by-step process in how to do that. I have gotten a number of veterans a medical service dog from Guardian Angels, but it's an 18 to 24 month process because of the training and because of they're the real deal, right, and the investment.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me for this part of the show. So thank you for joining us, Chit Chatting with Jocelyn.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.